earlier, and our artists and the art that you saw displayed a little bit earlier had to do with expressions of resilience, and for this pre-Art Basel event. And there are, of course, a lot of different forms of art, and we think we've chosen some amazing artists to represent different forms. But I think a pressing question is, and I want to just start with where Michelle left off, because that's what really this panel is about, which is where are we now? Black art in Broward, where are we now? And so I want to jump in on the really tough question, and then we're going to drill down on some other things. But you all are, and we had a really nice discussion yesterday, and I'll just sort of open this up for anybody who wants to jump in first. But in terms of talking about the pulse of Black art in Broward, is there a place where you can find quote unquote Black art, art representing the African diaspora, and what do you think about what's happening in our community right now in terms of Black art, and where are we now?
Hi, I guess I'll go first. Ashante was started 30 years ago because my mom couldn't find teachers that looked like me to teach dance and music. The costumes didn't match my skin, the makeup didn't match me, so she wanted to find Black artists. And 35 years later, it's still kind of hard to find Black artists that will cater to all age groups and who have a variety. But the problem is that they're here, we're just not connected to work together to make it more important for our community to actually participate in the arts. But we're here. I always see Darius, I always see other artists, Mr. George, since I was a kid. They're here, it's just that we need to figure out a way to connect artists to our community so that our community knows that we're here.
What thoughts do you have about that, Darius?
So yeah, thank you, George. Yeah, so I think she's right. The thing about Broward is so vast, right? We talk about Broward as a geographical location, from Deerfield down to Hollandale, out to Sawgrass, all the way over to the beach, right? That's a lot of area. And so there are pockets of Black artists all over. You know, you can go to Miramar and see some great things happening. You can go to Pompano and see some great things happening. You can go here, you can come here and see things down the Sistrunk corridor and see things happening. However, there isn't this like collective space and for like, oh, this is where you can find a hub for Black artists. I was talking, earlier about something else with, outside in the lobby about like there being a need for, whether it's a listserv, whether it's something that seems like a website or something where if you're looking for artists of the diaspora, that you can find them. But it doesn't exist. It doesn't live in a place that we can just easily access it. And a lot of that is, I think, connected to the powers that be, right? So like, are the cities and the county, are they putting forth the effort and the resources necessary to push that to the forefront? And then are the artists themselves working to be a collective group so that people know where they are and what the things that they're doing?
Yeah, so it sounds like we need to cultivate an environment where the Black artists can be more connected, and that's what I heard from at least two of you. Any other thoughts on that topic before we leave that topic?
I have to agree with what Darius has said. If there's a central place where folks know that they walk into the building somehow, some way they're exposed to artists, particularly of color, that are in our community that are either telling the stories or capturing them in some way or another. So my background, I'm a former banker, by the way. That's a whole other story. So I look at things from an economic development perspective, in terms of particularly people of color being in a location where when there is a family reunion being planned for Fort Lauderdale, and individuals, say from Georgia, want to know, well, where can we go and experience the community? There should be, it would be ideal to have a place where they can come and experience artists of the diaspora and actually seeing artists at work. So, and possibly participating in creating some of the art. So, with the right decision makers and the right funding and an identified place where that could happen, and accurately and well promoting that, then other artists who maybe are not well known can then feel like I have a place that I can go in. And we all know this, when artists get together, we inspire each other, and we create and we critique. I'll say this, I was down at the Lyric Theater a couple of nights ago, and I was introduced to a gentleman who lives in Tamarack. I live in Tamarack. He was from Barbados, and when he introduced me, I was introduced to him. The person, he says, well, I'm an artist. And I said, so why don't I know you? The point I was making is that, if there is a place where all of us can come together once a month or every quarter or what have you, and he said, when I came here, I didn't know where to go to find folks. And so it's an opportunity.
Let me ask you all this, because this would probably be a good forum to do it in. This morning I was at a meeting, I don't know if Sherry Brown's in the room, but okay, at the Community Foundation of Broward, and so we invited Bean Fur, who is our current Broward County Mayor. And and knowing that we were going to have this forum tonight, I brought up the issue of, he was saying, what can the county do to be more helpful in, different spaces, and what did we see as needs? And so I brought up the arts, and I said, well, I'm having this event tonight, I'll invite you over. I'm glad Commissioner Hazel was able to stop by, but I invited him tonight, and I said, we're having this discussion about Black art and artists in Broward County, and what can be done to give a bigger, bolder voice, basically. And his response was, and maybe he's on track, maybe he's not, but I'd love to get some feedback from you all so we all know what the message should be. His response was, he brought up the small business group. There's a small business organization within the county that Sandy Michael McDonald runs. And he said, well, they could be doing a little bit more, and I'm going to, I think we can put more funding in it, and, that kind of thing. And so, and I was kind of thinking maybe cultural arts, and I know in terms of an entrepreneurial aspect, and we'll get to that a little bit later, George, but you're concerned about that. But I'm wondering if that's the way to go, or if this should be more of an enhancement in terms of a hub being built through cultural arts. What can be done to give you all a bigger, broader voice in Broward?
Good evening, everyone. I think all of those things, definitely more funding, but more priority, and just the way that we view the arts in general. I know there's always a big push for public art, like visual art, but very rarely do I see performance art, performing like a dance or theater or music or orchestra, those sorts of things being put at the funding or priority level as, say, installation of like a public art piece. And for someone who is not a visual artist, but I'm a performing artist, I'm a double bass player, but I also run an orchestra, and I am a teaching artist as well. My medium is performance, and those opportunities for funding opportunities do not allow me to do the work on the scale that could showcase the breadth and the depth of the work that I do. And so sometimes we just have to kind of make do with what we have. And a lot of artists, individual artists, can't grow and scale to be organizations because we just don't have the funding, and that funding infrastructure does not really exist. in the cultural affairs to support that, or at least for me, I haven't been able to tap into it. And so I feel like that's one place for sure, is changing that and understanding that funding on a larger scale, on a scale to help artists grow and have some sort of sustainability is very important, because not all artists want to be singular. Sometimes we want to grow into something big, right? We have ambitions. And then the other thing is, what does a hub look like? I mean, is it just a place where we can go and have a creative space? Yes, but an artist hub could be an actual space where artists have workspace, where we have performance space. It's a community space. It's a space where we can integrate and just be in community with the people around us. So it can look, but that space can't be transformed without the voices of the artists that need to be able to use that space, and also the community. What would they want to see or see happening there?
So one of the things, while you have a microphone, I know that you are concerned that Black artists are sort of pigeonholed. They're not seen as having layers. And so is there anything that you would suggest in particular that we as a community of people who care about this issue, obviously from our presence, can do to support artists being seen and as layered?
We had this conversation all the time. Darius, what you want to say?
So I would like to kind of go back to the previous question just really quickly. And Portia alluded to the idea of how everyone sees artists. And so I too was an accounting major, and like real talk, like this is real talk. Like, really, I have a degree in finance and creative writing. So, but with that, I divorced myself, and I don't want to see any numbers. Thinking about the actual economic impact that artists have in this community. So there's some real big numbers associated with. Look it up. I can't tell you what those numbers are. I've seen them, and I know what they are. I know that there's an impact. But this do you know, George? You know the number? Okay, good. All right, good. All right, I said last week. But
I'm done with numbers.
Okay, cool. So, but understanding whether it is through who's coming in to see art, who's participating in art, like the actual real like tangible value that is associated with the arts in this community is vast. It is huge, right? However, oftentimes artists are often thought of as an afterthought, right? That it's the thing that you put in during Art Week, right? Or Black artists, it's during Black History Month, or now Juneteenth, right? So, it's a new one, right? So, it's understanding that artists, in order to do this and to do the things, like we gotta eat, we gotta live, we have to like do stuff, right? And so, Portia and I talk about it all the time. Like, okay, people will be like, hey, we got this event. Can you come, play something? Or can me? I'm a poet and playwright. Hey, can you come perform a poem? And I'm like, cool. What's your budget? We might be able to give you a little stipend.
But you bring up a good point. And I know I'm looking out in the room and I see a lot of people who have the capacity to bring artists in for their organizations. And so how would you suggest, and I know these conversations help, right? But what would we do to put art on the forefront? Because you see how, for those of you who attended the reception, when the artist wasn't playing, I knew, at least, because I want, to hear beautiful music. I knew the artist wasn't playing. It enhanced the event. It made it more appealing. It made it more inviting. So what would you suggest we do?
I suggest that people don't just see art as entertainment. Art is education. Art is medical. Art is healing. Art brings communities together. Art is creative. The Bible says that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the first thing he did. He created. So with the arts, you're able to create positive attitudes, build communities, create in children high self-esteem. It creates experiences. So when people see the arts, if you see it more than just something for entertainment, but actually see, like you said, the vastness of it to educate people, to create a bridge to bring people in for you to get them to do something else is very vast and very well for healing in the health field. For during COVID, what was the main thing everyone was doing? Something in the arts. You were watching a movie, music. The Versus thing was like 3 or 4 million people watching, and it helped us get through that. So it's more than just entertainment. The more you see that the arts is something that is global and can use to enhance communities, I think that it'll give artists an opportunity to use those gifts in vast majority than just entertainment.
And more avenues for being paid too.
Yes.
So education is critical, and how do you, and let's talk real here. In our community, even growing up, you know, at one time I wanted to maybe learn to play the piano, and my mom and dad said, boy, you better look for a real job.
What is a real job?
So what's important, I think, is educating our parents in terms of the value that the arts can play in the development of their child. So they don't view it as something that is, well, you know, really not something you want to pursue. You know, sharing with them studies. I have a master's in education, and it shows that kids involved in the arts academically perform better. It teaches them analytical skills. Kids who are involved in the arts, be it performing, visual, whatever it might be, also learn life skills. So I think it, in part, starts with educating the parents, but it also starts with educating maybe those of you who did not understand the value that art has to play. The other part is this: the part of education also can come about by engaging in the art. Don't be afraid, and I think the previous presenter, great panel by the way, before us, previous, we all have some childhood in us and some artistic talents in us. So if you have never stepped into a room to create art, because you know, all I do is draw stick figures, I can't even draw stick figures, let me challenge you to explore that child that's within you. Explore it and step out and put your toe in the water and say, you know what, I'm gonna pick up a paintbrush. So educating and having that parent and you experience it and how it has transformed you then can change the way in which you may view art, particularly in our community.
Can I
Yes,
add?
please.
So when I think about what everyone has said, you know, I think sometimes we get a little, an artist, but you think about it, you teach a child how to read, right? They speak, you teach them how to count. Or teach them about their numbers, they learn how to count. If they show a gift or an affinity for numbers, they become an accountant, right? They go to school, they study, they become a professional. It's like an art, like you have a gift, you might have music, or you may dabble in it in the beginning, music or dance, but if you show an affinity or an aptitude for it, you go to school and you study and you become a professional. And I think, again, going back to educating, like with anything else, so all of us, I don't know everybody's background, but I went to school and I studied music. I went and I became a professional musician. I invested in my education so that I could perform and charge the amount of money that I feel is necessary for me to earn, that's commensurate, for me as a performer. And so that's for any of you as a lawyer, as a doctor, real estate, whatever you do in your profession, you have gone to get some sort of certification, some sort of depth of education so that you can then charge and you can then command that sort of income for your services. And it's the same thing as being an artist. I think what we have been limited in our scope and understanding of what actually an artist can do, the depth, but there's so much. I mean, even there's some architecture, building is art, commercial writing, commercial jingles, all of that stuff, there's so much around, and I think when you see a child playing an instrument, that's just one part of it. There's so many other skills that are related to being an artist in the community, even audio design, all of that, producing, all of this is such a vast, and it goes back to education, and we're so limited in that and what an artist is and what training actually can yield in the profession. So I just wanted to add that.
No, I think it's a very, very important point.
Can I add too? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, and like I really kind of want to double down on what Portia just said there. And beg you all to kind of think about that when you all are thinking about events, when you are bringing in artists or purchasing somebody's artwork, right? And not, because we have a tendency to be like, trying to get a hookup. We have
I
a
can do that.
we have a tendency thinking that, oh, okay, that's you're just doing a little bit. That's not big that you're doing. But whether it is having gone to school and got this training, or 10, 15, 20 years of experience and work doing a thing, that artist has put in the work that is that means that they deserve to be compensated like a professional, right? They're not just doing it as a hobby. So one thing that George here does is he's worked with myself and other folks as artists, thinking about hey, this is a business. There's business that's happening here, and so when you think about working with artists, and this is for just the public, this is for folks on in government spaces and community foundations and funders, and think about it, understand artists, it's professional. We're like that, and the folks who are seeking and working towards professionalism and doing a service for community, because just imagine your life without art. Imagine it. You can't, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and everything that you do, it's there. So imagine it without that. And there are professionals who are providing these experiences, and there are places and communities when they're they're breaking bread and giving and making sure these artists are properly compensated. So we need to make sure that we are.
And let me shout out one of those areas. Michelle and I represent the city of Miramar as attorneys, and so I can tell you when I review the contracts and I see how compensated these artists are, I am very proud, because not all cities do that, and not all cities do that, and we know it's not happening at the state level, but there is an opportunity for us to encourage, and with that, there is a newly elected official here in the room from the city of Tamarack. She is Crystal Patterson, and if she is here, I'd like for her to stand and be recognized. So Crystal was just recently elected in November, and I just think this is just going to bring fire to Tamarack, and I'm so happy you're hearing this conversation, because you should know that there are very many talented artists in our community, and there's a place for support of the arts as a city commissioner. So, yes. Now, I want to move on to a slightly different issue, and that is I can go so many different directions because you guys give me a lot, but I'm going to ask some specific questions for each of you. And the first one's going to go to you, Darius, and I want you to share how your experiences as a poet and playwright shape your understanding of the current landscape of Black art in Broward.
All right, so I'm born and raised here. I'm from Fort Lauderdale. I went to Dillard Elementary and Lauderdale Manors Elementary, and I went to, I'm not going to say mine. I went to Everglades Middle, so if you know, it's William Dandy now, but for a couple of us, it was Everglades. And when I went to BA. And so, as an artist, I've been writing in some form since I was around 8 years old. And when I think about the work that I do now through myself, and then I have a nonprofit organization, Art Prevails Project, and the work that we do as far as theatrical productions and performances throughout the Tri-County area, and the work we do in schools, I think it's I'm all about the idea of continuing to tell stories and the importance of telling stories and elevating stories of our people. And I found there are open mics and there are things, and stuff that existed. But for me, I was always looking to try to help create spaces for other artists to do their thing, to come in and share their words and their experiences. And so that's what led me to found my organization. Thinking about the theater work I do, we do it locally. We've taken some things across the state, but we do work locally to tell stories. I've had the fortunate pleasure of doing work at the Broward Center for Performing Arts, but we've also done stuff on this stage right here, which is important to me to do work in the space. We actually have a residency with ARLIC now. Shout out to ARLIC and the county for my organization, because I think it's important that we continue to support institutions like this. Mr. Morrison was in the building earlier, I don't know if he's still here, but shout out to him for his vision for this building, because it is a hub, it is a space for culture and humanities and the art. And so as an artist, I'm always looking to push others, and because me just doing it as an individual artist is not what it's about. It's about building community, it's about elevating others, it's about giving space and opportunities for others to share their voices and for us to come together.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Gadsden, as a visual artist, I want to know how do you create your work, especially in this socio-political environment that we're in right now? What kind of things go into shaping the themes of how you sculpt and create your work? Like, do you think, for instance, as a Black male, given everything that's going on in the political and culturally, I want to do some piece of work, create some piece of work that will have people think in a certain way. How do you come to formulate your work?
Thank you for the question. I think, in part, I come to formulate the work by first understanding the final work, particularly if it's a public art piece, where it's going to ultimately be, and what takes place at that location, either during the day or even in the evening, and who will see it. And at the same time, do research as far as history of the site, so that some way, somehow, the symbolism and the message that's incorporated in the piece speaks to the environment and has what I call a sense of place. At the same time, I believe the onus is on me to bring forth issues in a manner that tells a story, be it good or bad, so that when we and others view it, will understand, okay, this took place then, but we need to make sure that we don't forget what took place. At the same time, we need to make sure that we don't allow something like this to happen again. At the same time, I'm a man of faith, and I pray and ask for guidance as I create the work, so that it has an aspect that people can see and sense the spirituality without it being completely direct. There's a quote that says, "Art is proof that anything has ever happened in the past." And we as artists, if we are true to what I would say our purpose, the work that we create somehow has to speak to what has happened or what is happening. When war takes place and the country who's defeating the other country goes in, inevitably they go and they get the art from that country, because it speaks to what's taking place. So my goal and my desire as I create work is to leave a message so that future generations can view it. And case in point, the sculpture outside here is one of my sculptures. And it brings in the civil rights movement. It brings in the future and the desire for economic sustainability amongst amongst ourselves. So in years to come, when I'm no longer on this earth, people see that, read it, and understand the symbolism behind it. And that's sort of how I approach things, so that when I'm not here anymore, folks can see, okay, yeah, and I'm gonna say this, and then I'll pass the mic. And you can throw tomatoes at me later. There was a debate about removing the statues in the public spaces that had to do with slavery and how Robert E. Lee, if you will, did what he did. And in some places, those statues were removed. And because of what I do as an artist, and particularly as a public artist as well, and I consult the City of Tamarack Commissioner, can't wait to work with you. The art in the public spaces that were controversial, I believe that those pieces should stay.
We'll throw tomatoes at you later.
Okay, because it's history. Alongside those pieces, though, should also be work that is created that speaks to, this is what happened in the past, but here's what should happen now so that the past doesn't happen again. So that's how I would approach.
Very good, thank you. A lot of that is something that we can sort of chew on for a very long time. Thank you. Now, Jamila, let me move to you. And what are some of the significant barriers that Black artists face in securing funding and resources in Broward? I know that when Linda was with us, you know, it was always, you know, she was always raising funds, but I think Ashanti has probably done a little bit better than some other organizations. And even with that, I'm wondering, what barriers do you see, if any?
One of the barriers that I've had to take when I'm writing the grants now is that you want to serve a specific area, my area with my children, with my community, and it's very hard to just receive funding for one specific area because they want you to serve, okay, I'll let you serve your community, but can you come over here and serve this community who already has everything, who already has the arts thing? So it's one of the difficult things that I notice is that when I'm doing specific grants for specific neighborhoods that really don't have an arts space, that they want me to also include other areas that already have the arts. So that's one barrier. So like you said, I'm a woman of faith. So I always ask God, how do you want me to approach this to serve this community? What is the way you want me to serve this community through the arts? And my mom always said that anything that's made by men, there's a loophole in it because it's made by men. So God always shows me the loophole where I can serve this community in a specific way, whether it's with autism for specific areas, whether it's for creating criminal justice with using the arts for a certain area. So that brings in the criminal justice aspect, but I'm still able to serve using the arts. So that's one of the barriers I'm noticing, is that when it's for a specific area, that it kind of get pushed away, but because we're creative, we've always think of ways to create a loophole to get what we need for our community.
I love that. Portia, as a business owner and creative, which you are, what unique challenges have you encountered promoting Black classical music within a predominantly white industry?
Several, actually. One is that we ourselves have a very limited view of who we are in the classical space. And that's constantly a huge barrier that I'm going up against. And honestly, like, it was I was there because even as a Black classically trained double bassist, and I had a Black woman teacher when I was in college, my experience was literally, you know, it was me and like 2 other people in the orchestra, and not much has changed since then. And it really wasn't until like 2019 until I met like a sea of Black professional artists who were dedicated, wholly dedicated to their craft and played with the highest sense of excellence, and they were blackity black. And I was like, yes, this is my tribe, these are my people. I don't have to, you know, put up a front or anything, because I am a 305 girl from Overtown, Miami. That's who I am. And born in, I live in Broward now, though. And so that was my evolution, you know, in the process. And I feel like since having the idea, this God gift to start New Canon Chamber Collective, or to go down this path, it has been not like, it started with my re-education, but then it's also me re-educating my own people, right? Because I had to learn that and experience that we do exist in this space. And so it's constantly me, yeah, you know, I have an orchestra, and people looking at me like, oh, what is that? You mean like Black violin? Who I love, right? Or who I think they're amazing, but they are also classically trained artists who went to Dillard and went to school, studied, but they chose their own path in that way. And so they have all of the, you know, they have all of the credits, street cred, school cred, all of that, orchestra cred, all of that, to do what they do. But that's one of the main challenges. And then the other challenge is, you know, well, can you play jazz? You know, that's another thing, which I love. My husband is a jazz musician. But again, it's really us sometimes, and it's not, I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I think we really have to get out our own way when we start seeing ourselves in the spectrum of what an artist actually, a performing artist actually looks like. In ballet, it's not just like in dance, it's not just like tap and all this, all of that. And all of that's a rich part of it, right? And then with theater, it's not just like the gospel plays, oh mama, save me Jesus, you know, it's so much more. Darius does amazing work, and even as sculpture and art, you know, I think I love the depth and the breadth of us as artists across all of the different genres. And so it's constantly re-educating people.
Very good, very good.
Here for it.
Let me ask you all, whoever wants to answer, what's a misconception about Black artists that you all continue to encounter? Any misconceptions out there? And I want you all to know they are answering, we did not go over questions, so they are answering these questions organically from their hearts, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So, anybody?
So, I mean, like Portia just said, like, I think the idea sometimes is like, you are in a certain box. Like, as an artist, whatever your medium is, like, this is what you do. So I'll tell you this, so like, I'm a theater artist, I write and direct plays. I say that, and what do you think they say to me? Well, I say, hey, I write and direct plays, what do they say? Like who? Absolutely, 100%. First, like, without pause, like, the first thing is like, oh, like Tyler Perry? Oh, like Medea? Oh, I love Medea, right? And I'm like,
No shade.
I mean, that's cool,
Yeah.
but that ain't what I do, right? That isn't what I do. And so, I think like one of the first misconceptions is that part right there, like, we're in this box. And then going back on, and I'm not sorry if I keep going back, to the money, is that we're okay with just exposure. I can't eat exposure. I can't eat it. Like, I like to eat food. I gotta pay mortgage. I got these things. I can't eat those things. Right? I can't spend those things, right? And so I think that there is a misconception like, oh, you should be good, you straight. You know, it's gonna be a lot of people there, and somebody there might want to pay you, you know, but I can't really give it to you, right? And so I think that part is a big thing. But also, you know, we do want to shout out the Community Foundation of Broward that's sharing in the building, because they do a lot to support artists and arts organizations in Broward County. And I know for personally, it's with Art Prevails Project, my organization, Art Growth, and a lot of it is directly connected to the investments that the Community Foundation of Broward has shown, and then even worked with me as an individual, you know, grants that they did with Broward Culture Division and Innovation Grant. So there are people and organizations and entities that are doing it, but the rest of us need to get on board and see the value in the space.
So another question, just to follow up on that, unless anybody else wants to comment on
That black children do not want to take technical dances, and they actually do. Once you expose them to the technique of dance and they get a great foundation, they love exploring all types of dance. They really do they like ballet. They don't worry about how their body look. They like the technique aspect of it. They just don't like field dance. They just don't like dancing dolls. They just don't like hip hop. They like West African. They like Horton. They like ballet. They like salsa. They like all styles of dance if you expose them to it.
Can I just add one thing to something Darius said? The onus is on us as artists to define ourselves and not allow someone else to define us. Years ago, I had someone say, well, are you a black artist, so you do black art? I said, well, I'm an artist who happens to be black, but not all of my art is about black. The sculpture at the Urban League, I had a friend of mine, she was at the ribbon cutting, and she said, George, if I were not at the ribbon cutting, I would not know that that was your sculpture. I said, perfect. The reason being, it doesn't look like a black artist did that sculpture. So the point I'm making is, as artists, we have to tell people who we are based upon what we know we are, as opposed to having them define who we are. The other part of the story is, and we talked about this, for Black History Month, and I'm all in favor of Black History Month. But we have now determined that the best way to help people get out of the paradigm of just for Black History Month, we'll call on black artists. No, black art is good even in October. It's not just for Black History Festival.
Very good, very good. Thank you all, those are great answers. So here's a question for anyone who wants to answer. In your perspective, what would be just name one actionable step that artists, institutions, and patrons can take from this to ensure that you all have sustained visibility and growth?
Okay, I'll jump in. So, and I guess I'll go from a patron's standpoint. I think for artists and arts organization, we need you all to show up and for the things that we do. Right? There's a lot of art that is being expressed. Was mentioned. She has an exhibit. Here. So like, if this work is up here, come see it. Right? There's a show happening here. I know friends of ours have a Soulful Christmas happening here on the 13th and 14th. Huge songs that's happening here and then in this building. Come support. Come show up. Right? Follow us if you're not connected to New Cannon Chamber Collective, Ashanti Cultural Arts, Art Prevails Project. If you're not connected and know and see that what we have going on, because all of our stuff is there, we promote it. But if you don't know it, you don't know, right? So follow, research, search out for the things that are happening in our community. Was mentioned earlier in the panel, there's not a lot, of arts happening in Broward County. I beg to differ. There are things that are happening, people just don't know. And a lot of individual artists and smaller arts organizations don't have large marketing budgets to make sure that you all know. So some of that we need you all to search it out, look and find, Google it, see what's happening on Eventbrite, see what's going on, and connect that way.
I would say on an institutional level, and I'm not particularly connected a lot in Broward County. A lot of the resources that I've gotten from my organization and the music education that I run, Teeny Violini, is through Miami-Dade, through the Miami Foundation. But and they're not perfect by any stretch, but one of the things that I think would be a good takeaway is just, like Darius said, stay connected. But if you are invested for the long haul, I think sometimes there are these initiatives that happen. You just kind of put money here for this moment to support artists in this moment. That's great, but it doesn't really even solve an issue. It's just kind of for the moment, it's a Band-Aid, but I think it is, how do we create a long-term plan where we committed long-term to helping artists grow, Black artists specifically grow, and scale, or whatever it is that we need so that we can continue the work and the legacy, and then also new artists and new arts organizations could be developed. So, was that one thing?
Well, it sort of was a run-off. That qualifies.
The idea of Black philanthropy comes to mind. Having Black philanthropists pool their funds together, access to capital for anyone, particularly Black artists, is very important. It's very difficult. So if there were a group of philanthropists or individuals got together and pooled their funds together and have it as a dedicated fund for, let's be real, having it set specifically for artists of color that can apply in a process for whatever it is they need in order to maybe help them grow to the next level, then that gives them the momentum needed, okay, to move to the next level. There's that here in the community in terms of individuals, corporations even, Black-owned businesses that are very successful can put money in a pool, and there's a process of how the artist would apply for it, but it gives that artist the jump start if they're beginning, or it gives them the resources they need to go to the next level.
Just, the only thing I want to say is that the arts, remember, it's just not entertainment, it's education, it's exposure, it's real. So just expand your mind on what art is. Art is not judgmental. You can start, it won't judge you. It won't judge you how you dance. It won't judge you how you sing. It won't judge you how you write, how you draw. It is very welcoming. You can start where you are. It's open to anyone to participate. If you can breathe, you can participate in some type of art.
That is really, really a great way to end. And please give our panelists a very warm thank you for being here. This was excellent. And I think it's helped to open a lot of our hearts and minds about what we can do as individuals to assist, to support these and other artists here in our county and in the South Florida community. So thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Thank you all. At this time, is Tamika Hobbs still here? I'd like to invite her up. She and the African American Research Library are co-sponsors of this beautiful event this evening. We hope that you've enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it? Is the food good? Is the music good? Did you enjoy the artists and the artwork and the panels? Great. We are happy about that. And I think Kathy may have told you all a little bit already about, obviously we do a huge conference every year that we want to make sure that all of you are invited to. If you haven't been invited or you don't know about it already, please consider this your formal invitation. We will have on our website soon the Women of Color Empowerment Institute's, what year is this, Michelle, Kathy? 14th? 14th annual conference. So we will have it on our website soon. And a lot of the things that we do, because Kathy and Michelle and my schedule are crazy all the time, and so we tape for our Women Lead show. And so this, if there's no objection, this will be likely a part of a Women Lead episode in the future. It comes on every Sunday, 11:30 a.m. on the CW network. I hope you all watch it. And anybody watch Women Lead? Y'all make me feel like you see it now. Okay, good. We're happy about that. So without further ado, please welcome my friend Tamika Hobbs.
Thank you, Bernadette. Round of applause, please, for Bernadette and her